I call this April 24th meeting of the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission to order. My name is Jim Bledsoe, and I'm chairman of the commission. I'd like to remind everyone at this time, if you have a cell phone, please put it on vibrator silence. And yes, I did silence mine today. It went off yesterday, so no. And if you do have to take a call, please either step outside or step into the hallway or something. Ms. Hayes, would you call the roll?
Chad Baker. Jim Bledsoe. Here. Harold Cannon. Here. Jeff Cook.
Here.
Bill Cox.
Here.
Kurt Holbert.
Here.
Connie King. Here. Jeff McMillan.
Here.
Jim Ripley.
Here.
Bill Swan.
Here.
Trey Teague.
Here.
David Watson.
Here.
Jamie Woodson. Here. We have a quorum.
Would y'all please stand while Brother Bill Cox leads us in our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day you've given us today. We ask you to lead, guide, direct this agency, this commission, and our decisions be pleasing to you. We ask you to bless our country, our service people, wherever they may be.
Thank you very much. We've got a list of the minutes from the March meeting in Nashville.
Move to approve.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. We pass the minutes. Mr. Carter, do you have any announcements? Thank you, sir. Moving on, we're going to move into the Wildlife Management Committee. Chairman Jeff McMillan.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask Daryl Ratajczak, Chief of Wildlife, to have his presentation concerning proclamations on WMAs.
I apologize, I got ahead of myself.
Okay.
1 second. I forgot to recognize, we had some special guests in the room. Representative Andy Holt. Any of y'all want to get up and just wave and hi and say cheers? But got the Carroll County Mayor, Mr. Kenny McBride. The Mayor of McKenzie, Ms. Jill Holland. And the President of the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Brad Hurley. We thank you all very much for coming, and now I'll turn it back over to
Daryl, would you like to come to the podium?
Thank you, Commissioner. This should go relatively quick. Yesterday, we brought before the Wildlife Committee two proclamations for passage. The first one being Proclamation 15-01, and what this proclamation does is it proclaims Paint Rock Wildlife Management Area. Paint Rock has historically been a refuge, but it has not been serving in the refuge capacity. So we ask that the full commission pass Proclamation 15-01 proclaiming Paint Rock as a wildlife management area, and this will effectively repeal Proclamation 077.
Okay, are there any questions for Daryl concerning this proclamation from the audience? If not, then Commissioner Bledsoe, the Wildlife Management Committee, and I recommend passage of Proclamation 15-01 proclaiming Paint Rock WMA.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the commission? Any discussion from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The second proclamation that we brought forward to the Wildlife Committee was Proclamation 15-02, and this proclamation proclaims Happy Hollow Wildlife Management Area. This new wildlife management area is approximately 1,800 acres located in Region 2 within Hickman County. And we ask the full commission to pass Proclamation 15-02.
Are there any questions for Chief Ratajczak? If not, Commissioner Bledsoe, the Wildlife Management Committee, and I recommend passage of Proclamation 15-02, proclaiming Happy Hollow WMA.
Motion has been made and seconded. In discussion from the commission? Any from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Chairman McMillan,
That concludes the Wildlife Committee.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We now move to the Fisheries Committee. Chairman David Watson.
I'd like to call Alan Peterson, Dwight Hensley up.
I don't know if you all have ever heard of Carroll Lake before. Dwight's got updated figures on costs and whatever, and I think I'm gonna just turn it over to Dwight. He has a lot more information than I do.
What we were asked last month that we presented to y'all, I believe there were some questions about some dollars that we already had in our budget and reimbursements from FEMA. So I didn't do another particular spreadsheet, but we've had some conversations, I think, with some members of the commission. And last month, we had an overall cost of project agency-wide of about $173,000. Commissioner Cox had asked how much money did we already have in our budget that was in there, and that was about $60,000 of money that we already had in our budget to do some of that work with. So we need a budget expansion to do all the work of $113,000. FEMA's going to reimburse us $61,000 whenever the project is done. So giving us the budget expansion, a net budget expansion of about $61,044 after FEMA reimburses us. I don't have any other additional information. I think y'all saw all the data last month that we had. It was option 2 of the 3 options that we'd recommended, and y'all took it under advisement.
So if FEMA reimburses us, the balance is $61,000?
FEMA reimburses us 61, the balance will be 51.
51.
956.
Okay. 51,956. Okay. Any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm going to walk through, I want to make sure we understand the facts, and then I want to make sure I understand the numbers. And you've known me long enough to know it takes a while to get through this thick head. FEMA is only reimbursing us for one of the 2 gates, and my understanding is that the reason they are denying us funds for the second gate is because of predominantly maintenance-related issues. Is that a fair statement, Dwight?
That's what they said.
Okay. Alan, I appreciate your staff giving me some of the information. I've looked at over 10 years' worth of dam inspection reports, and not in one of those, including the most recent, is anything related to maintenance of the gates acknowledged. In fact, it says everything is operational, we've been permitted. The only comment I have seen has to do with seepage at the downward face of the dam, which is common in 99% of the dams I've looked at of that age. Am I in the ballpark here? And so it appears that FEMA has some pretty wobbly legs to stand on. I will come back to that in just a minute. Right now, Dwight, we have how much budgeted? 60, did I write it down? 60,000 or?
We already have, in our operating budget, we can cover $60,000 of the cost.
Okay, and so we need basically another 52,000 after you subtract out FEMA's reimbursement on the gate to get this project done. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Does this include the movement of reshaping, if you will, of the bottom of the lake? I know we don't want to haul the stuff off, but I'm assuming it does have some reshaping dollars in it.
The budget expansion number we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
It has some money in there for the materials.
Okay. If we do nothing, what I've been running into with TDEC is that, and I realize there's some vegetation that has started to take hold, but the bottom line is that we're going to have to make sure there's established vegetation throughout the 100 acres of that lake bottom, that it's maintained, and that is not a cheap expenditure, at least the projects I've been involved in. If I take out your people's time, and if we just sub this out to someone who does stabilization with seeding and mulch, there's a lot of dollars that can be spent in that. Is that, I understand about 1,000 an acre you can get into if you're not careful.
If we didn't do anything to that, probably by the end of August or September, that entire 100 acres would be pretty well greened over.
Okay.
By just the seeds and things that's already there.
Would it be within would it be approvable by TDEC?
Now, that I don't know. I think long-term, that if we didn't do anything, it would probably revegetate fairly quickly. If we're never gonna do anything, then we would probably want to look at taking the dam out, and that way you wouldn't have to permit it. It has to be permitted right now as long as it's there. So, long-term, if you wasn't gonna do anything, you would remove the dam, so you wouldn't have to permit it, and then very little, if any, water would be stored back there, so it would revegetate fairly quickly. But you are correct. I think if nothing was done, TDEC would want to make sure that no other silt continued to wash downstream.
Okay. I would like to make a motion, and if anybody would like to ask questions before I make that motion, I know we have discussion afterwards. But I personally believe this thing should be fixed. It is our lake, and it's our lake in a community that, Mayor, you've been a great partner on a heck of a lot of projects here, and we need to get this taken care of. If there's no objection, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for budget expansion in the amount of $113,000 to be approved for the repairs and restoration of Carroll County Lake. As part of the motion, I am asking Director Carter and staff to immediately file a letter of appeal with FEMA regarding their ruling on the second gate. It doesn't appear there is anything that supports their claim that the thing has not been maintained. And for us not to appeal that is truly a mistake. Mayor McBride, I'm going to ask a favor of you, and this is not tied to this motion at all, just a favor in a couple of areas. Number one, you have remarkable relationships in areas that have to do with FEMA as well as other things. Any support the county can give us in this appeals process at any level, we'll hug your neck, or we'll promise not to hug your neck. Maybe that's a better way of saying it.
As long as it's only Commissioner Woodson and Commissioner King, I'll be good with that.
We can arrange that, sir.
Thank you.
Second, any support, whether it be financial, whether it be that you're going to have a National Guard or whoever out here moving some dirt that may help reduce our costs. This state is well aware of the budget constraints that we have had and the steps we've had to take this year to address those constraints. And we know you all are constrained as well. So I am very sympathetic to your all's situation as well. But any help that can be had to help us in this area, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. But that is not a condition of this. Did you want?
I just want to say that we've always partnered with the agency, whether it was on our 1,000-acre lake or on the Carroll County Shooting Sports Park, and we'll be more than happy to do anything that we can within the means that we have to assist you in repairing Carroll Lake. It's a very important asset to our county, and we're looking forward to having it back where it can be a model bank fishing lake for the agency, and we'll promote it. You've already received communication from our chamber that they're going to be involved with directly promoting Carroll Lake, and we're anxious to work with you and turn it into something that we can all be proud of.
Well, and in the same breath, sir, the relationship we have with you in this county is a model for what we want to have across this state, and we truly appreciate that relationship. But,
Thank you, and thank all of you for all your support and everything that we've done. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I submit that in the form of a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'd like to second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any discussion from the commission?
Dwight asked for 61,000, your motion's for 113.
Yes, sir. As part of the budget expansion, it's like anytime when we get federal dollars for a project, we have to expand the budget that amount even though it's reimbursed by the feds. This includes the FEMA amount.
Okay.
We expand it by the FEMA amount, and we will at least get the 61,000 back from FEMA on that.
Okay, well, he just asked for 61, I just want to clarify what we're doing.
That's the only reason the expansion has that much in it, Bill.
Okay, question, something you said that is, that I had understood that the lake, to go back to it's silted in so that it's not as big as it used to be, and if the dirt, to put it back like it was when it was built, we'd have to remove some of that dirt, and it's expensive and whatever. Could we investigate local farmers or whoever maybe bidding on going in and getting that dirt out of there and putting it back for topsoil, and or in kind go in and remove some of that? I mean, it looks like that would be an easy deal.
That might be a little bit longer process than we think. If it has any value, I would suspect we'd have to go through a bidding process.
Yeah?
I would suspect we'd have to go through a permitting process. I would suspect before we bid it out, we'd have to go through a sampling process to make sure there's no contaminants in the soil if we're gonna sell it. So it could get rather involved, and it could get rather expensive.
What would be expensive about that, or how long would that take?
I couldn't tell you. It could take months. When you get T-Deck involved in moving silt from one place to another, it can get rather involved.
Commissioner Cox, I think that being said, and while I don't disagree with Dwight, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with that consideration. And I believe that that's something that can be explored further in the project. What these dollars do is get this thing committed to be fixed. And any way we can save
I
dollars.
just was asking a question about physically about the dirt and that kind of thing. If we're having to remove some of it, or if it needs removing, it sounds like some speculation as to whether you think any of that's going to be necessary or not. But the bidding process, perhaps, whatever, you know, if we could give it away. I know you can't give away state property, I think Barry said, but there's a process you can go through to do that. So, you know, I'd like to ask you to kind of think about that and see.
But the overall part of this is we're building the peninsulas out of dirt that we're moving from the bottom of the lake up to the side of the lake. So we're going to deepen some of the areas already, but we're not taking it off site.
When you do this, the lake will be 100 acres?
It'd still be 100 acres.
Is there anything can be done going forward into the future to keep this siltation process from coming in? I mean, can we put something up at the headwaters to stop that? Or?
I don't know of anything.
Okay.
It's just something that has occurred since 1949 over a period of many, many years.
Yeah.
What's happened on this lake is what typically happens on lakes in the middle and certainly the western part of the state. They silt in. That's just by nature. Some of them a lot quicker than others. Farming, development, and things of that nature, silt just leaves the side of where those activities are going on. Now, TDEC has implemented laws along with EPA in the past several years to minimize or reduce that greatly. But this lake was built in 1949, so it's got a lot of extra silt in it.
Is the lake going to be deep enough in the upper end to be a viable fishery? I mean, have the fisheries guys looked at the depth and all that? I'm sure they have, but I hadn't heard that.
Obviously, since 1949, like Dwight said, the siltations impacted the lake some, and it's more so in the upper end where as soon as the flow stops, the silt drops out. So the upper end is where the silt really starts dropping out. And so that upper end it's a lot shallower than it was when it was first constructed. There are times when that upper end is probably not accessible or as accessible for fishing, but that's also the part of the lake that would be probably the most difficult to get to with equipment to do any real work. So we can probably better improve or more easily improve the lower end than we can that upper end. It's just hard to get to where that silt is.
I guess the point I'm making it short is just if we're gonna do work on the lake, let's make sure we do it where it's a premier fishery and do it right.
Any more comments from the commission? Any comments from the audience? Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment concerning the upper end of the lake. I know.
Mayor Holland, will you please state your name?
I'm
Just
sorry.
it's for the record.
I'm sorry. Jill Holland, Mayor of the City of McKenzie. The upper end of the lake is where a lot of people fish for catfish. And they said that even though it was shallow, that was the primary place that they go for that. So they would hate to have that part completely eliminated.
Okay, thank you. Okay. No other questions? Now, this will be a committee vote first, so all for Harold's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes. Let's go to full commission now. Okay, the fishing committee makes a recommendation that we fix Carroll County Lake. Reference to Commissioner Cannon's motion, and
If it would please the commission, can we have Commissioner
Yes.
Cannon read his proposal again?
Yes, please.
And this is being made in the form of a motion before the entire commission.
I'll read it now on behalf of the committee. The Fishing Committee respectfully makes a motion and requests approval of a budget expansion in the amount of $113,000 for the repairs and restoration of Carroll County Lake.
Motion has been made. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion from the commission? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.